Cool. Do you guys see where you're putting in the notes to check in? I don't see it this morning on the Blackboard discussion. Or I see it now.
Hello.
I think it's only active at 9:30, so you should see it now. I already did.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Good
Professor.
Good
morning.
morning, Professor.
Good
Good
Morning,
morning,
morning.
Professor.
Good
everyone.
morning. Good morning. Hi.
Good morning,
Well,
Professor.
good morning. Good morning. So, it's been 2 weeks since our last class, um, because of what was that? Uh, uh, Lincoln's birthday, right? We've had 2 sessions, right? We've had 2 sessions, but uh, I want to remind you that um, the lecture videos have been released per schedule. I mean, even last Saturday. And the videos are released, like at least 3 days ahead of the scheduled class. So you had already videos to watch that week. Okay. Um, and one thing I want you to understand is that the main lecture is the pre-assigned videos, not the collaborate session, because the collaborate session, and that was made very clear at the beginning of the semester already, that the collaborate session is only a review and a reflection. And I think uh, I believe to refresh your memory about that, I sent out recently. I sent out another email about it. I think it was just yeah, this one. It was posted on January 24th, but I uh, resent it out. Right, I resent it out recently. So that means do not rely on the collaborate session, because uh, by collaborate session we cannot meet our schedule by the end of the semester, right? To cover everything, uh, as you can. Oops, what is going on? Okay, if we go by the collaborate, just the collaborate, there's no way we can cover all of this. I mean, we cannot even get to this, that it's given, the reality is, see, I even made it like week 15 plus, but we have only 14 weeks per semester. We can't even get to that is given, but we need to get to at least topic 6, and to get to topic 6, you have to go by the main lecture, right? So you have to be very diligent. um, you shouldn't skip even a week. But if you think, oh yeah, February 12th, that was a holiday, so no class, so I'm not doing anything. No, you're behind. Why? Because everything is grayed out, but the topic 2 is already lighted. It's already open, and in topic 2, even in topic 2, these are already gone. They were last available on February 15th, right? So if you haven't watched it on time, then they are gone. Of course, you can find them. So now whatever is active, current, and active are these, right? So if you are not caught up to this, if you're not caught up all the way to this, then you have missed them. You have already missed them, but you haven't lost them permanently. But if you have missed, So we're still in bond, I mean, in collaborate, but by the main lecture, you should be all caught up to this. Okay, and this, until when is it? 22nd. It's until it's there until 22nd. So you should be very diligent, right? And I also told you, if you all the videos that are more than a week old, you can find them on. You can find it on. You can find them on my YouTube channel, right? And I told you the playlist name is it's just intuitive, very intuitive. You're in CUNY, you're in BMCC, and you're in fnb300. So here you can find all the past videos, right? And even future ones, but I prefer, I want you to go by so that you won't be behind the schedule. I mean, once you start to lag behind, it's going to pile up and it's going to be, unmanageable. So keep it always under control. Stay ahead of the game always. Stay ahead of the game, and keep those, assigned videos, under your manageable level, because once it's, so again, so that means we don't have any more holidays, after, so we don't have any more holidays. The only holidays will be the spring break. But even the spring break, even during the spring break, there will be, videos, pre-assigned videos still released by the schedule, right? It gets released per schedule. So otherwise, as I said, we can't cover what's on the syllabus. We can't cover all the topics, right? So please, be mindful. Please be mindful of that. Okay. So anyway, since the collaborate session is kind of behind because of this holiday scheduling. So let's get straight to the to our so I have a lot of let's see, you might wonder, can you not erase it? This is PDF file. I mean, I scribbled, on the original PowerPoint. So if necessary, I will open the PowerPoint, but on PDF, it's not, it cannot be erased. So I think we talked about the callable bond last time, and actually, even in Finance 100, we did callable bond, right? How to value callable bond, and we did it in Finance 100. So we're not gonna dwell on it further. And then now let's think about the. We talked about yield to maturity and current yield, but but what about the holding period return? Okay, and the holding period return is pretty much the easiest concept, because where is my whiteboard? Okay, whiteboard. I gotta open up the whiteboard. I think this is no. Okay, I think this is just blank one. Okay, good. If it is blank, so we know yield to maturity is annualized return. And then actually before yield to maturity, there is holding period return. And the whole literally, this is something we did already in Finance 100. The holding period return is literally, the return during the holding period. Okay. And if the so let's say your holding period is 10 years. You bought the bond at time 0. You held it until year 10. Yes, then I don't know if it is not 1, 2, 3, 4, but whatever it may be, this should be 9, right? So throughout the entire holding period, right? What's the return? So that's basically total return, right? And then if you annualize this, think about it. So if you annualize this, right? Well, you might think, oh, then that must be a yield to maturity. No, the answer is slightly different. I mean, the answer is yes, but then, the reason it is slightly different is that what I'm saying is, if we two assumptions. One, that's what if, now think about it. Every year, every 6 months, you receive coupon payments, right? Just to make it easier, let's assume just 1 year coupon. You're receiving coupons at the end of each year. I mean, even if you receive 2 coupons, semi-annual coupons a year, 2 coupons, still, if you add up these 2 coupons, that's 1 annual coupon, right? If you add up 2 semi-annual coupons, that's 1 annual. So, it's not a difficult concept to just visualize in your mind. But let's say when you receive the coupons, what do you do? What do you do? Some people say, if I have, $1 million in the bond and it pays 10%, coupon, that's, $100,000 every year, right? That's a huge amount of money. Of course, in the first place, you have $1 million, in the bond. 10%, coupon rate, so $100,000 a year, right? That's wonderful. Oh, of course, the thing is, you need to find a bond that pays 10% coupon. But those $100,000, some people may spend it, but if you're investing like $1 million, then you are not someone who would spend it. You are almost a professional investor. You are that investment, $1 million investment, you're not doing it for to use, spend additional investment income. You are doing it to grow your wealth. So then the question, most people would, reinvest that, $100,000. Here's the thing. You can reinvest, in other words, there's $100,000, you can put it in the bank, but, the bank interest rate is very immaterial. Currently, you don't even get 0.1%. I mean, even the CDs, you can probably get 1%. So, first of all, 10% coupon rate, that's already unrealistic. But, if that's the case, you are lucky to lock into a bond like that. So you don't you don't want to put it in the CD because it's at best 1%, and then you should put it into the stock. But if you put it into the stock, then you may get something greater than 10%, but there's a lot of volatility. You don't want that. So in other words, saving, where can you get the safe return like 10%? In reality, that's not easy. But if you can reinvest that, 10% return, right? 10% annual coupon back into this bond, right? Back into this bond, or the same. If there's a same investment opportunity, if you can invest in that and keep it there, continue to keep it there until this point, right? Until the maturity. Then, in other words, your interest is going to earn the same 10% interest, right? Isn't that right? Then that's called, realized compound return. Okay, so realized compound return is the same. It's the basically compound. How the compounding works. How you solve for the R in how you solve for the R in compounding, right? Now, it's the geometric average, right? So in other words, so it's nothing new. We all know. We all know future value is principal times 1 plus R raised to n, right? So here, if you are solving for this, right? What is that? If you're solving for R, it's FV over P raised to 1 over n minus 1. And if you did finance 100, you know how from this formula, how this formula is derived. You should know, because I always, that's it's basically, what I teach. I don't give you just the end result, right? I don't give you just the end result. In other words, my focus is not on what, but my focus is not what. I'm not giving you only the end result. I'm giving you mainly how and why. Okay, so the steps of derivation of the steps of transformation. That was a big chunk of my finance 100. So the point is, the realized compound return, also called the CGR. CGR is, compounded growth rate, right? It can be, here I used, equal sign. It would be the same thing. It would be equal. It would be yield. It would be equal to yield and equal to internal rate of return if all that coupon payment was reinvested at the same rate, right? But if it wasn't reinvested at the same rate, you cannot say it's the same thing. So it's cannot be computed ex ante with accuracy due to margin of error in reinvestment rate forecast, because we cannot. In other words, what that means is, we cannot tell what the we cannot forecast, with accuracy what the reinvestment rate will be. So, in other words, now unless you can, reinvest this coupon payment into the same bond, but then the bond may no longer be purchasable. That bond may no longer be available in the market. In other words, nobody may be selling that bond. Think about it. This would be the case if, like in this example, if this bond pays 10% coupon, which is a abnormal, right? I mean, 20 years ago, let's say it's like, almost like 20 years ago, 10% coupon rate was available, right? But now you cannot find 10% coupon rate anymore. Probably, these days coupon rates, at best, 2%, 3%. Now, then the bondholders who are still holding, right? The bondholders who are still holding on to holding these bonds will not put it on the market. They're not going to sell it, right? Why? Because if they sell it, then they cannot reinvest it in anything that pays 10%, right? So it's quite obvious. Without any risk, right? I mean, without any volatility in return. That's why bond is called fixed income security, because it gives you fixed income without any volatility. And where can you find that? Something like that. So nobody will give it up. So it's going to be very difficult to find the same reinvestment opportunity. That's why. Okay. So next, that will lead us to the horizon analysis. Horizon means time horizon. So it's basically a way of forecasting bonds yield to maturity with some reinvestment rate forecast. So, for example, this bond is currently paying a 10% coupon, right? And if the reinvestment rate is also 10%, then we can tell pretty much, what it's going to be in year 2, right? Currently, 1 year later, you'll receive $100 coupon, right? And you reinvested at 10%, it's going to be $110. 2 years later, right? The 2 years later, you'll have 1,210, which is, simply just compounding, right? Which is simply the result of compounding, right? But it will be a different thing, right? Of course, 2 years later, you have, principal of 1,000, 100 original, the interest, coupon interest from year one, right? And this is what compounding is. But what if the reinvestment rate is 8%? You won't realize this, right? That goes without saying. Your future value in year two will just be only something like this. Excuse me. Now, so we can so yield to maturity measures average rate of return if investment is held until maturity T. And the holding period return, which is the total return, right? A bond was issued N years ago when, a bond was issued, I think it was, we have another example, I believe. Yeah, there. So a bond was issued N years ago when yield was 7%. That means, prevailing market rate or discount rate was 7%. Coupon rate was set at 7%, right, with annual coupon. So we are, just for simplification, just to make it simple, we are assuming annual coupon. So in this case, you can tell already this is going, when it was sold, it was selling at par value. The price must have been $1,000 because the coupon rate and the yield was the same. Now, with 3 years left in the bond's life, so from now, maturity is, 3 years, 3 years left maturity. Yield went up to 8%. So that means prevailing market rate is 8% now. Then you can tell already this is going to be a discount bond, right? And calculation is already right. Previous when it was sold, when it was first issued, it was a $1,000. But now, because the discount rate went up to 8%, it's now a discount bond. And if you do the calculation, right, you'll get to 974. 1 year later, another coupon payment. There will be another coupon payment, and maturity falls to 2 years, right? Then with 2 years left, the price will go up. Price will be closer. Think about it. As you approach maturity, right? Discount bond, the price of the discount bond will go up because 1 year left, 2 years left, the price will have to be greater than when there was 3 years left to maturity. And 1 year left, the price will have to be closer to par value, right, than 2 years ago. So we know discount bond shows this pattern in the price trend. Premium bond shows this pattern, right? Declining pattern. So premium bond will have a capital loss over the life of the bond. Discount bond will have capital gains over the life of the bond. Of course, this is assuming that the prevailing market rate doesn't change. I mean, whatever was born as premium bond, it can become a discount bond, right, during the life of the bond, if the rate, the prevailing market rate falls, right, below, and falls to what? Falls below its coupon rate, right? And even the discount bond can become premium bond if the discount rate falls below its coupon rate, right? When the coupon rate is greater than the discount rate, then it becomes a premium bond, right? So it's changing. So I think when I was talking about the premium bond, I mixed up the assumption. So even the premium bond can become discount bond if the discount rate, the prevailing market rate, rises, right, goes up above its coupon rate, right? But if there's no change in the discount rate, in other words, in the short run, of course, in the short run, the discount rate will generally hold steady. I mean, if you have like 1 year left, what are the chances, the discount rate would change? I mean, it's in the short run, everything is pretty much well predicted. Of course, even in the short run, it can change because prevailing market rate. I mean, it's all a matter of Federal Reserve policy. Even with there are bonds that have currently that have less than 1 year left to maturity, but Federal Reserve is saying they're going to raise the interest rate in March. And because all these Fed actions, in other words, Fed's guidance is already pre-announced. Fed FOMC after every FOMC meeting, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, he's in his second term already. He's in his second term. Prior to Jerome Powell, it was Janet Yellen.
Isn't Jerome Powell dead?
What?
I'm pretty
Come
sure
again?
Jerome Powell died last year.
No. Jerome Powell didn't die. He's still Fed chair. You mean who died? I believe Alan Greenspan died. Oh, no. Paul Volcker. Paul Volcker died. Alan Greenspan is still alive, I believe. Alan, you can just look at. So look, before Janet Yellen served only one term. And then before Janet Yellen, it was Ben Bernanke. Ben Bernanke served 2 terms. And he was the Fed chair, unfortunately, during the financial crisis. But, he's, in large part, he's also responsible for or accountable for financial crisis. I mean, the banks were accountable for financial crisis, but he was the one responsible during that era. Before Ben Bernanke, it was Alan Greenspan. And Alan Greenspan served like 5 presidents, or like he served like 2 decades. He served, he was appointed by Ronald Reagan. And since Ronald Reagan, then George Bush Sr., and then Bill Clinton, 2 terms of Bill Clinton and George Bush Sr., Bush Jr., George Bush Jr., right? So Reagan, Bush Sr., Clinton, Bill Clinton, and George Bush Jr., and then Barack Obama. So he was, actually he served 5 presidents, right? And I don't think he's dead. Prior to Alan Greenspan, it was Paul Volcker. Paul Volcker died, actually. He died last year, I believe. So Paul Volcker was the Fed chair when I was in college. And he was actually appointed by Jimmy Carter, and he served under Ronald Reagan. And so I believe he served one term only. But anyway, where was I? Yeah, because every time when there is FOMC meeting, because they release, there's a press conference, so they release their guidance. So interest rate movement is at least easily forecast. It can be forecasted. For short run, so you can already, you can be, there's no surprise. You can already be, prepared. But in the long run, interest rate, like over 5 years, no, it's hard to tell, right? Well, because business cycle of 5 years, you can have a projection, but you cannot. The projection is only a projection, and what Fed will, what kind of posture, what kind of stance the Fed will take, 5 years later, it's meaningless. It's pointless. I mean, making that kind of, what's important is, what kind of stance the Fed will take within 1 year period, within next one, within this 1 year, within this upcoming 1 year. That's what's, more, what's relevant, right? I don't know. There's a lot of, ding, but, you should understand. I can't see that while I'm, on screen share, right? Let me just check what you are busy about. Oh, I guess, okay, you guys are exchanging, okay, phone numbers, right? Where am I? Oh, okay, so what is this? So let's, and then obviously, yeah, because it is a discount bond. Look, coupon rate was 7%, but discount rate is 8%. So it is a discount bond. But discount bond will take this pattern, right? It will take this, as I said, it will take this pattern, right? Its path will take this pattern. So one year later, yeah, the price will have to be higher. And there will be capital gain of 7.94, right? So if the bond was purchased at this point, let's say if you buy this bond at this point, and then you sell it at this point, you realize the capital gain of 794 plus the coupon payment of 70. So your total return, or the holding period return, is, I mean, in dollars, 77.94. You divide it by the purchase price. That's your holding period return, right? Now, let's take a look at another example, how you can, excuse me a second. Now, I'm not going to go into this example because it's just like this one, right? It's just another example. But this is a good example of how you can time, in other words, good timing, right? How you can time your purchase and sell to maximize your holding period return. But of course, this is only possible because we can make interest rate forecast, and it's not. It's because the Federal Reserve is constantly communicating with the market. Federal Reserve is communicating with the market. As I said, guidance, right? It's called, guidance. It's, simply the, in other words, press conference they hold, after FOMC meeting. So through the Fed guidance, if you can forecast interest rate to drop, then you can set up a strategy of timing when to buy and when to sell to realize certain return. Okay. All right. So next, this is a very interesting item or topic. Strips. Okay. What is strips? It stands for actually, it's just a mechanism. Separate trading, right? Separate trading of registered interest and principal of securities, right? So it's a mouthful already. It's mouthful. So what does that do? So basically, suppose you have $10,000, right? And you can buy, if you have $10,000, you can buy like at least 10 bonds, right? 10 coupon bonds. So, and it's only Treasury does this. Treasury does this. And if the coupon rate on the Treasury is 10%, I mean, we're using 10% just to make it easier, right? In reality, of course, it's hard to find 10%. It's almost, rare, close to impossibility, unrealistic. But, think about it. If the coupon rate on this Treasury is 10%, right, because you bought 10 of them, each year you'll receive $1,000 because it's 10% of, 10,000, $1,000, right, each year. And if this Treasury is over 30 years, right, the life of this bond is, 30 years. But just to make simple, even smaller scale, 10 years, that means what? You are entitled to, you will receive 10 of, in other words, $10,000 in interest over 10 years, right? But then instead of receiving interest in cash, you request the Treasury Department, to give you, instead of paying $1,000 every year at the end of the year, right? Instead of doing that, you request them to give you 10 bonds, right? Because if it is $1,000, right? Think about it. if the interest is $1,000, it's equivalent to one bond with face value of 1,000. Of course, bond has face value of 1,000. So each coupon payment you receive, instead of coupon payment, you receive $1,000 face value, 0 coupon bond, 10 of them, right? But then, of course, they all have different maturity. The first one bond will have 1 year maturity. Another one will have 2 year maturity. Third one will have 3 year maturities, right? That way, each bond will mature 1 year after another. Just like paying. Then, if you sell it 1 year later, the first bond, which matures in 1 year, 1 year later, you will get 1,000, right? Because anyway, even without selling it, if you take it to Treasury Department or the bank, any bank, right? You present that bond, you will receive 1,000. 2 years later, the second bond, which matures in 2 years, you take it to the bank, you receive 1,000. Third one, the same thing, right? But then, why do you do this? I mean, if you're going to take it to the bank 1 year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, why not just receive the coupon payment, 1 year later, 2 years later, 3 years later? Now, look, think about it. This gives you more flexibility. If you receive these interest in bond, 0 coupon bond, right? 0 coupon bond. This gives you more flexibility, right? It gives you more more liquidity. Why? If you just receive coupon interest, then you have to wait 1 year, you have to wait 2 years, you have to wait 3 years. But if you receive 10 of them already at time 0, think about it. You can sell them already in the market, right? Does that make sense? The 0 coupon bond maturing in 1 year, you can sell it whatever it is, whatever you can sell it at the market price, whatever it is selling for, right? At the market price it is selling for. Of course, the price will be whatever is discounted to, whatever is discounted to. And obviously, the first bond will be selling at relatively good price because it's got 1 year left only. It's got 1 year left. But the last one that matures in 10 years, it will be discounted the most, right? If you're selling it now in the market, it will be discounted the most. So it will have the least present value, right? But anyway, if you choose to receive just coupon payment, then you don't have any liquidity until that point, right? Until that maturity. But if you opt for strips, then you have more flexibility and more liquidity. Okay, so the 0 coupon bond used in the strips is called OID. What does OID mean? That means original issue discount. Where did I write it down? The original issue discount. I wrote it somewhere. Yeah. Original issue discount. Back here. And then here's the thing. Tax imputation or tax estimation, because when you sell them, right? If you sell, there will be, for every income, be it interest income, capital gains, there should be no taxes. So tax imputation, that means tax estimation. So here, look at the timeline. I don't know if it is 1,000, but this is not exactly 1,000, maybe, so so this means, maturity 30 years, maturity date, but, think about it. At maturity, it will be $1,000. 30 in this example, it's a 30-year, right? 30-year. You bought 30-year Treasury coupon bond at paying 10% coupon, and look at this. This is the last year coupon, the value of the last year coupon, right? Present value of the final year coupon, and if you. So 30 years later, when you receive this final coupon, it is worth exactly $1,000. 30 years later, right? But this zero coupon bond, if you sell it today, this will be today's, this is the selling price, right? This is the selling price. And 10%. If the coupon rate is 10%, and if the yield is discount rate is held constant at 10%, right? If they are discount, so and if you sell it at the end of year 1, right? At the end of year 6. At the end of year 9, 12, so think about it. Yeah, that makes sense, huh? So the final coupon, last coupon, if you sell it in year 29 with 1 year left, it will be close to, it will be exactly $900, right? And so on. Also, another way to look at it is, this is the first coupon, the first year coupon. If you sell it now, the price will be this, because you have 1 year left. The first coupon has the first bond has 1 year to maturity. The second one, it has 2 years to maturity. The price will have to be like this, right? But anyway, and the final coupon today, if you sell it today, of course, this would have to be the price. But here, but what if currently the discount rate is 10%? Okay, before that, so if you sell this, if you sell the first coupon, what I'm saying is the first bond. If you sell the first bond at the end of year 1, what's going to be its price at the end of year 1? If you sell it at that point, is of course the price will have to be $1,000 because you're selling it at the end of year 1, right? And its maturity is at end of year 1, right? Okay, so that may look a little complicated, but think about it. A bond that's going to mature anyway, here, right? That a bond that matures, at the end of year one, at that point, it will have to be 1K because, at that point you will take it to the bank and you'll get exactly the face value. But if you sell it at this point, it should be the present value of that 1K, right? Whatever it may be. And because you will have, basically it's going to be discounted by, so the discount rate is, 10%. So the present value of 1K will be discounted by 1.1. So whatever it is, if you do, that's the present value of that, 1K. And we know it will be something like 900 something, right? You can easily yeah, 909, right? Which is 909.09. So this difference, right? The difference between 1K and 909, right? The difference between that is called that is interest. That is considered interest. In other words, we know zero coupon bond doesn't pay any interest. That's why it's called a zero coupon bond. But think about it. That is the return. I mean, if you have, I've been telling you, and also in Finance 100, you all know that 30-year Treasury zero coupon bond. Basically, you can buy them from the bank. It goes by the name U.S. Savings Bond, or sometimes, they call it by the series of the issue, right? So sometimes they called it, I don't know what series it may be, but years ago, double E bond was, very common name for that. That was almost like 20 years ago. And they sell for $500. So that means, 30 years later, you get, 1,000, right? So that difference, that works like interest, right? The difference is that's $500, and that's 100% return. 100% return over 30 years. That's the holding period return of 100% over 30-year holding period. And that difference, that $500 is also called bond discount. But this is like, the interest. This works like interest. I mean, otherwise, why would anybody buy a zero coupon bond? It's because of this, right? So, and IRS considers this as interest income, right? So if you sell it, right, you will realize almost $100 gain. It's like, $91 gain, actually $91. The IRS considers this as interest income, so they will tax it, right? So in the slide, the example is like this. So for example, the present value of the 30th year OID, the zero coupon bond, right? 30th year OID is 5731. Okay. Yeah, because it's going to mature in year 30. So the present value will have to be, right, by this. And then 29th year, right? The value of that in the 29th year will be this. I mean, with 29 year left, I mean, not 20th, with 29 year left, is this. Think about it. So the present value of this last year, the present value of this last year zero coupon bond is this. If you don't sell it 1 year later, the present value will be this. If you don't sell it 1 year later, and at that point, if you sell it, this much difference will be considered as interest income. Does that make sense? In other words, the zero coupon bond that will mature at the end of year 30, currently at time zero, its present value is this, and 1 year later, its present value will be this. And if you sell it at that point, this difference is considered as the interest income. So they will tax that, right? They will tax that. The tax rate will depend on, your marginal income tax rate, but, and second, well, what if interest rate changes? This year, the interest rate was 10%, right, at time zero. But next year, if the interest rate goes down to 9.9%, well then, next year, the present value of this last coupon, which is the zero coupon bond, the present value will change. You will, because it's a lower discount rate with 29 years left, it's going to be 64.72. So then, thanks to the interest rate change, you have capital gains, right? So you might think, these are all very small, but compared to what the present value it would have been under 10% coupon rate, 10% discount rate, 10% market rate, prevailing market rate, 10% discount rate. Clearly, there is a capital gain. So, right, this difference, it's only about a $1 something, $1 something, right? $1.60, $1.70. That is considered capital gains. $1.68. That's considered capital gains. So you will pay tax if you sell. Of course, if you sell. If you don't sell, no gains, no taxes. But if you sell and make gains, then they will tax on this interest and on this capital gains. Okay, so that sounds like a very puny thing. I mean, that's very, look, it may be puny if you're just looking at, $1,000. But suppose, institutional investors are holding a huge, bulk, right? A bulk of, treasury, and they can realize, the interest income and the capital gains income from something like this, from strips, can be in the order of, billions of dollars, right? And obviously, that needs to be taxed then, right? So that's IRS side, right? IRS side. All righty, that's already 10:38, almost 10:40. I think it's a good time to take a break. So let's take a 10-minute break and reconvene at 10:50. All right?
Professor?
Yeah?
Hey, it's Anna. I just wanted to
Yeah.
remind you. Hi. I just wanted to remind you that I haven't done my presentation for this class.
Okay, good, good. So I thought you would be joining us towards the end.
Oh yeah, I forgot. No, actually,
That's okay. I'm gonna take a break. Look, I need a break. I'm gonna take a break. So during the break, go on and give your presentation. Okay, so everyone, please meet Anna. Anna is our supplemental instructor. So she's going to, Anna was my student in Finance 300 and Finance 230 last semester, and she was an excellent, wonderful student. So I brought her back as supplemental instructor for this semester. So she'll be your supplemental instructor, and she's going to give a presentation during the break. Okay, it might take 15 minutes, 15. So I'm gonna leave you guys to in the capable hands of Anna. So please, take a listen. Okay, so let me just stop my and I should stop sharing for you to share, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna
So
start sharing.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing. I'll mute myself and stop sharing, and you can go ahead.
Okay. All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
great. All right, so good morning, guys. So like the professor said, I'm gonna be the supplemental instructor for this course. This is my email here if you guys want to write it down, but I'll also be emailing you shortly later today, so you'll have that in your email. So I'm going to do an overview of the supplemental instruction program, and I'm also going to talk about how sessions are conducted. This is the overview. Supplemental instruction is an academic assistance program that utilizes out-of-class peer-led review sessions to facilitate students' comprehension of course content and help them towards academic success. So basically, we're trying to form a learning environment where students can engage with course content and expand their understanding and ultimately improve their academic success. So SI targets traditionally difficult courses, those that have high rate of drop, fail, and withdrawal. So if you guys are having a tough time, know that you're not alone. These are traditionally difficult courses. So, majority struggles with these courses. So they made this program specifically for these courses. SI sessions are open to all students in the course section and are free of charge. These are included with like the BMCC tuition, so you guys are encouraged to take advantage of them. Attendance is not mandatory. However, SI participants are more likely to earn higher course grades and withdraw less than non-SI participants. So like everything else, if you put in the effort, you'll see results.
I have a question.
Sure.
For what you said before about like the higher grade thing, will it be like if you do the SI supplemental instruction, will you like get points added to your average, or is it just like you'll understand the content better?
No, there's no points added. It's what you said. You just understand you're just gonna work together in smaller groups and basically and understand the content more and go through discuss like class lectures, discuss any topics that you guys are having difficulty with, but there are no actual like points or added to your grade. And reason also is that's why it's not mandatory.
Okay, thank you.
It's voluntary, yeah. Okay. If you attend SI sessions regularly, you will have a better understanding of course content as well as a toolbox of effective learning skills. This will help you throughout your academic journey. So basically, everyone learns differently. Examples are visually, auditory, kinesthetic, which means by doing, sensory, and reading and writing. SI sessions are also for helping you determine what works best for you. So we're going to try different learning strategies and basically just go along, and then you guys can just figure out how you guys learn best, and then that you can take through this course and through any course that you take during your college career. The program is non-remedial, so sessions are for everyone no matter your grade. So if you guys are struggling or if you think you're doing fine, you're all welcome to the sessions. Now we're going to move on to how they're actually conducted. So SI sessions will be held both online and in person. I'm doing a combination of both throughout the week. Each session is about 50 minutes, and there's going to be about 3 sessions per week. Marathon sessions are possible, meaning they can run in, they're usually about 50 minutes, but we can make them longer, so like another 50 minutes. So they can just be held longer. That's according to you guys, whatever you guys feel best. The part of the SI program is like the benefits is the flexibility. So I work with you guys' schedule, and and I talk about, I'll be studying with you, helping you guys study with the things that you're struggling with or the topics that you come up with that you think you need help with. So you're welcome to attend all sessions. Again, they're gonna be I'm aiming for 3 per week, and they're gonna be varied between Zoom and in person. Right now, a lot of people are, I can say for my other courses, because I'm doing 2 other courses besides this one, a lot of people are doing Zoom more than in person. So if that's the case, then majority will probably be in Zoom. But again, it's according to you guys what works best for you. Students are encouraged to come to sessions with questions they may have about course content. That's self-explanatory. So just like if right now you have any questions that maybe you want to bring them up, just write them down, come to sessions, you're welcome to do that. Content is reviewed in a small group setting, giving the students opportunity to improve understanding of important concepts, compare notes, get to know classmates, develop study and learning strategies, test yourself before the professor does. So the SI program does 2 things. It teaches you, it helps you with what to learn, what to take away from the course material, and it's also helpful for how to learn. So understanding study strategies and techniques. Students who attend SI sessions discover appropriate application of learning strategies such as note-taking, vocabulary acquisition, problem solving, understanding components and application of formulas, and building on Excel skills. These are all components of this course. So we're going to be working on all these things. And also building, as I said, the toolbox. You're going to be taking away things like, just learning strategies and building on them. And lastly is resources. So these are a couple of resources that I found useful. We can talk more about these during SI sessions, but these are websites. The Federal Reserve System website is helpful for learning about monetary policies and how the Fed works. These are financial websites that I rely on other than Google, because you can Google everything, but these are actual financial websites. These help with terms and understanding some of the concepts. And then of course you have the libraries, which are just loaded with resources. As it says here, resources are your friend. SI also aims to foster connections with support services. So you guys can better understand how to identify and utilize resources to your advantage. And that's the end of my presentation. Do you guys have any questions? Okay.
Hi, Anna.
Hi, Ebony.
Hi.
How you doing?
That's good. quick question. So you're gonna be sending another email after this class about the available dates and stuff for this?
Yes.
Course? Okay.
So thank you for reminding me. I forgot to mention that. So I'll be sending out a Google form, which is like a survey for you guys to fill out. It just says what time, you just select what time is good for you for Zoom or in person. And any questions or comments are welcome on the Google form. So I'll be emailing you with that, as well as the Zoom link for all our SI sessions for FNB 300. That's going to be included in the email. And then lastly, today at 5 o'clock is going to be our first SI session.
So this
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
So in the beginning, when you started giving your presentation, you said that this class has a high drop rate.
Yes, this class and the program is created for this class and a lot of other classes that have a high drop rate or fail or withdrawals.
Right. Yeah, I'm having a problem with this class. I'm not really understanding the content all the way.
Yes. Well, that's exactly why the SI session.
We're not the only one.
Like I'm pretty good at math, and I didn't think it would be so math based, but I thought it'd be more of just not so much like the formulas and whatnot. I thought it'd be more based upon like the content of like understanding what a bond or what a stock is, or how to purchase shares or something like that. When it said money investment, I thought that's what it would be, not a bunch of formulas and whatnot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I understand you. I hear you. I was in the same position last year. I took this class. I mean, last semester actually. I took it last semester. However, we didn't have SI sessions that we could take advantage of. But this semester you do. You definitely have that option. As far as the math base, I think it's more the formulas that you guys need to understand and the concepts of like the mechanics of the formulas. As far as the math, the good thing about this course is that Dr. Hong relies on Excel, and Excel does do all the math for you. So as long as you work on, I think that as long as you work on the Excel and practice with the Excel worksheet that he does provide, what I used to do is I used to just play around with it and like see, play around with the Excel. And obviously the formulas, like I said, you have to understand like the symbols, the components, and then how to apply them to Excel. Excel will do the math for you. So you don't have to like write down numbers and all this stuff. You really just focus more on the formulas and understanding like the concepts. But we can, that's what SI is for. We talk about those things, and I can show you some things on Excel that I found useful. And we can go over the components of the formulas, such as like the bond pricing that we're doing now. We can review that in SI. And yeah. Any other questions?
Personally, I know it's helpful, so I'll definitely be looking at it. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. So like I said, the first one is today at 5 o'clock. It's going to be in Zoom. So I'm going to be sending that email, within a couple of hours. So you guys just look out for that. And then that'll have all the information, the Zoom link, and the Google form. All right. And if there are no more questions, I want to thank you guys for listening to my presentation. And hopefully I'll see you guys there.
Thank you, Anna.
No problem. See you later, Ebony.
See you later. See you at 4.
Yes, at 4.
Okay.
4 for FNB 230.
Okay.
5 o'clock for FNB 300.
Okay.
Hi. All right. I believe you guys must have had a very productive time with Anna. Right after the break, I was okay. I was checking how many people are here on yeah, in today's forum, and there are 22 people because, of course, two are my postings. So if you are not here, please make sure that you do attendance report, because if you don't do that, there's no physical proof of your attendance. Okay. What else? Okay, so I have 22 and 22 here, so the numbers match. Okay, good, numbers match. Yeah, so where was I? So that's what strips is. So a couple of well, tax. Oh, about the tax concern. That's also. Let me bring up. So then your question might be, I mean, this is an extra thing, right? Because the book doesn't talk about it. But so if you're paying taxes on the interest income and capital gains, so how much do you pay? So usually, the easiest answer, or sort of like, a rule of thumb is at your marginal tax rate. And what's the marginal tax rate? Marginal tax rate is basically your top tax rate. But, and then, it's going to take a lot of time to go through this. But if you have taken 230, FNB 230 already, or business 210, you would know in paying personal income taxes, we go through every tax bracket, right? You have different layers of income that belong to different tax rates. So that they are called tax brackets. So you don't pay just one rate. For each income level, you pay different rates that are appropriate for that bracket. So actually, so it's like this. If your top tax rate is 32%, it doesn't mean you're paying 32% of your taxable income. You pay like 10% for your the base tax bracket, and for the second tax bracket you pay like 18%, third tax bracket 25%, fourth tax bracket 28%, fifth tax bracket 32%. So effectively you're paying much less than at the top tax rate. Okay. But then that's another that's another class. So we're not, and it's going to take a lot of time to go over that. But that's just a rough way of saying it. But actually, there is you're not really paying at your marginal tax rate. Marginal means, if you have your taxable income has the upper bound, let's say the upper bound of the, okay, I can use this. Let's say the upper bound. I said, multiple tax brackets, right? Like, between 0 and, 0 and 50K, tax rate is 0%. 15K through 40K, let's say, right? 10%, and so on, right? It's like this. And the upper bound of your taxable income is, let's say, you are currently earning, your taxable income is, total taxable income is, 120K, let's say, and 121K, your taxable income. $120K. So then 121K. No. What I'm saying is 120K plus $1. In other words, $120,000, $120,001, right? If that's your taxable income, and your currently, your top bracket is from 100K to 120K. So in other words, and this is 32%. Let's say you're paying 32% on that. Okay. But your and the next bracket starts from 102K plus 1. Actually, think about it. The next the lower bound of the upper bracket is always the upper bound plus $1, right? So for 100K, this 100K to 120K portion of your income, that's like 20K portion, right? For that 20K, you pay 32%. But your taxable income is $1 more. That $1 then belongs to the next tax bracket, and next tax rate is 35%. So then $1 will be taxed at 35%. Okay, at $1, right? So 35 cents of this $1 will be tax, right? And that's called marginal tax rate. What's the next rate, right? If your taxable income is this, then your marginal tax rate is 35%. So the interest income, capital gains income, just marginal, just roughly, they will be taxed at 35%. Is that really the case? No, really not the case. Now the thing is, so what's the marginal? So the concept of marginal tax rate is something like this. So what if your taxable income is $119,998? What if your taxable income is 109? And taxable income is gross income, your gross income minus exemptions and deductions, right? If this is your taxable income, what is your marginal tax rate? That means if you make one more dollar, you're still in 32% tax bracket. So in that case, marginal tax rate is still 32%. And even if you make two more dollars, right? Then it still falls into this bracket. So the marginal tax rate is still 32%. But once you make three more dollars, right? In other words, from this level, right? So then your taxable income is $200,001, and then that $1 right, that goes above this upper bound, the $1, will fall into 35% tax bracket. So that's marginal tax rate. Okay, that's the concept of marginal tax rate. If you make one additional dollar, which tax bracket you're gonna fall. But roughly, that's how most of the times that's just a rough estimation of where your interest income and capital gains will, what tax bracket will it fall into? At what tax rate will it be taxed? But actually, there's something more in reality. I believe I have it somewhere here. Do I have it? Where do I have it? If I don't have it here, where can it be? Oh, tax treatment here. Yeah. So dividend income for so I'm not gonna, it's gonna take a lot of time. So this must be there too. So please read it. Capital gains, and in the main lecture, video, I was talking about, in the main lecture, I believe I talked about the anecdote of Warren Buffett and his secretaries. I mean, not that the anecdote is about their taxes, right? So capital gains and the dividends are given some special treatment. So depending on what your income tax bracket is, capital gains, if you are between 0 to 10% income tax bracket, so that's your marginal tax bracket, right? You pay nothing. Okay, you pay nothing. You pay 0%. I mean, if you're between 10 to 25% marginal tax bracket, then you pay 0% on capital gains. If you are above 25% marginal tax bracket, you pay 15%. So capital gains and dividends are really given more preferential treatment than earned income. Okay, so if you ever watch, and I make it very, I stress this, every time, and it's very important to watch the assigned videos on schedule to stay ahead of the game. If you're procrastinating it, you don't even know, and if you don't even know, some people say, I don't see anything here. I don't see anything. Professor, I don't see anything. You cannot possibly see anything. You cannot possibly see nothing. What I'm saying is you cannot possibly see nothing, because at least these are all past due. I mean, these are all more than a week past, so they are not visible anymore. But at least the recording of the live sessions are there, right? You can see this, but you should keep up with the release schedule of these, right? Release schedule of the main lectures. And if you have watched them, you understand what I'm talking about. And about Warren Buffett and his secretaries, tax, right? You understand what I'm talking about. I don't want to repeat that. It takes a lot of time. What takes a lot of time, I can do it, I can do it in the main lecture because it's, pre-recorded, and you can watch it, taking your time. But our, class time, in other words, collaborate session, I mean, on Saturday, 9:30 to 12:15, it's very limited window. I cannot cover everything that I could cover in 6 videos, because 6 videos is like 3 hours. And obviously we don't meet 3 hours. It's 2 hours 45 minutes. And what I can actually verbally deliver during this limited window is also very limited, because there are a lot of times that cannot be devoted. There are some times that cannot be devoted solely to the lecture. So again, I'm gonna go back to Warren Buffett and his secretary's tax comparison, and something like this. This isn't part of this class, but I can talk about something like this in the main lecture video, because I don't have time limit in the main lecture video. I mean, I can even if it is 5 hours long. Yeah, I mean, you have 1 week. You can spread your time, and you can spread these videos over your time, and you can watch 5 hours of video, 6 hours of video over one week, if it's if that's what's necessary, if that's what it takes. But when we meet, I've been telling you, that's not the main lecture. The collaborate session is not the main lecture. It cannot be condensed into 2 hours 45 minutes, right? And even if I have to explain this, how tax brackets, what are the tax brackets and what's the marginal tax rate, and this cannot be included in the collaborate session. You must understand that. That's why you should watch the main lecture and stay ahead of the game, so that I won't have to do this during the collaborate. And if I have to do this during the collaborate, we cannot cover. By the end of the semester, we won't be able to cover even topic 5, right? So you have to be very diligent. You have to be very sharp. And unless you're a genius who can just pick it up, instantaneously, the only way to stay ahead of the game on par with the geniuses is to, study ahead, right? You must study ahead. That's the only way. And the successful people are always staying ahead of the game, because they cannot tolerate falling behind. That's why they are successful. They cannot tolerate lagging behind. So they do whatever they can. And I heard this was, I don't want to spend this class time on this, but there was this on one, I guess it was on CNN News. There was one worker who was like working on just something like McDonald's, working in McDonald's, or some stock room employee in Target. This guy lived like 20 miles away from his work, and he doesn't have a car. He's very poor, so in the morning he wakes up like at 3 a.m. and leaves his home at like 3:30, 4, walks 20 miles to get to work, still ahead of time, like 8 a.m. And when the reporter, CNN reporter, was asking him why does he do that? And he says, it's better to be there 5 minutes early than 5 minutes late. And that's what his father taught him since he was a kid. So it's better to be there 10 minutes ahead than 10 minutes late. Right? Staying ahead of the game, it takes diligence. Not only the intelligence, but also the diligence. Right? So, end of the story. that CNN report. So they actually, after this report went out, they started a GoFundMe, something like GoFundMe for this guy, and they raised, money to buy him a car, so he doesn't have to get up, 3 a.m. and walk to all the way 20 miles. Yeah, that's the spirit. You cannot be successful without being diligent. Okay, being super diligent. So again, about this tax treatment, that file is there also, I believe. Topic 1, tax treatment. I think it is down here. Yeah, tax treatment. Okay, please read it. Right. All righty. Again, next. Now, I think there was tips somewhere, but okay. We all understand about the bond rating, right? Default risk is reflected in the bond rating, and if the what enters the biggest factor that enters the bond pricing is the discount rate, right? The discount rate. Think about it. Pricing is basically present value, we all know, and the present value is greatly affected by the discount rate. And the discount rate is determined by the bond rating, right? Why? Because the bond rating represents the default risk, and the higher the bond rating, the default risk is very minimal. So AAA bond, or AA bond, they are very high quality. There are three bond rating agencies, global standards. They are basically global standards. The bond rating by these agencies are global standards. 2 are U.S. Standard & Poor's and Moody's. That's U.S. IBC Fitch is UK based rating agencies, and the rating system is pretty much the same. IBC Fitch is not introduced here, but it's like, but very similar. Moody's uses like B double A, B single A, B, but what is that? If it is B double A, that's triple B. B single A is double B, right? And triple A, double A, very high quality, A and triple B, high quality, and above triple B and above are called investment grade bonds. Below that is called junk bond. Junk bond, right? So junk bond means, it sounds like it's a very bad bond. No, it just means very high high risk, right? Double B, single B, speculative. So that means they are like stocks. The volatile, risk is like stocks. But then risk, when we say risk, the risk of the bond, in Finance 100, if you took Finance 100 with me, you know, a lot of these are what you have already learned in Finance 100. There are specifically four types of risks in the bond. One is, of course, default risk. Default risk is the greatest risk, you know, no matter what, right? Think about it. You're lending money. Is the borrower going to default, or what's the likelihood of my borrower? Of course, that's the most biggest concern, right? Second risk is the liquidity risk. Third one, inflation risk. Fourth one is, maturity risk. Maturity risk goes by three different names: maturity risk, interest rate risk, and price risk. But out of these four types of risks, default risk is of course the greatest risk, right? And the default risk is reflected in the bond rating, and depending on the bond rating, the discount rate can be low or can be high. Okay. So what determines the bond's safety? In other words, what determines the default risk? In Finance 230, in Finance 230, you learned, if you already have taken Finance 230 or Business 210, you must have learned, ratio analysis. And one of the ratios, right? Three types of ratios are relevant here. But let me write it down here. So this is the reason why you need to take the finance courses in sequence: 100, 230, and 300. And if you have already, fortunately, if you have taken already 230 already, or Business 210, then you should know this already. Ratio categories, right? First, oops. Oh, why red? Profitability ratios. Profitability category. Second, liquidity category. Three, debt management category. Four, asset management category. 5, valuation category, and stock valuation, right? Valuation category. Now, these three, right? What should I use? I think these three categories are the ones that affect the default risk most, right? Of course, profitability, how profitable the borrower, the company is, right? That's profitability. And there are several, like at least 4, but the most 4 in this category, but the most representative 2 are return on equity and return on assets, right? Of course, the higher these numbers, that means they are more profitable, so their default risk will go down. And these two are really directly liquidity ratios, liquidity category. One is, the first one is, a current ratio. Again, most representative 2 only. I'm not Current ratio is current assets over current liabilities. And think about it. This is really current ratio is about whether the company can meet short-term liabilities. Short-term liabilities means the payments that payment obligations that become due within 1 year. So the companies do not go bankrupt because not necessarily because they have huge, long-term debt, but because they have huge short-term debt they cannot pay, even if it is not huge, right? Even if it is not huge, even if it is small, but if they have more short-term debt than their working capital, right? Short-term assets, then they can go bankrupt. First, they will default, and if they continue to default, then they go bankrupt. The first one is current. Short-term, their short-term cash flow is very important, and if their current ratio is under 2, they are in trouble. They may go bankrupt, and then default, right? Default and then bankrupt. Default on your lending, default on your, in other words, the bond and interest payment. So that's directly affecting, obviously, the default risk. And then second one is acid test or quick ratio. Acid test. I'm not going to go over it. And the debt management ratio is basically leverage ratio and the coverage ratio. Leverage ratio and coverage ratio. Leverage is basically total debt over total assets, right? I mean, if you're, in other words, that's capital structure. Out of your total assets, if the debt is like 90% of your total assets is debt, then this company cannot, whatever EBIT, whatever earnings before interest and taxes this company makes, all that EBIT will be exhausted in paying interest. With 90% of its total assets being debt, you are under heavy burden of debt servicing. Maybe that all your earnings, EBIT, may not be enough to pay interest for that, right? So leverage ratio, in other words, how much debt out of your total assets. Coverage ratio is also called times interest earned. Times interest earned. How many times the interest is your EBIT. In other words, your EBIT must be multiple times your interest obligation. But if your EBIT is not even that, then you're in trouble. Okay, so those are. Why is it always defaulting to this one? Right? Current ratio, quick ratio, or acid test, right? Debt management ratios. I didn't, profitability. Liquidity ratios, right? Profitability ratios. And bond indenture is not, it's basically like, the terms of the bond, right? Terms and conditions of the bond. So it's like the cover page of the contract, right? So this is something you need to. I believe in one of the previous classes I showed you this, and this This is an example of indenture, and from this you can tell whether it is callable or not, right? It says callable here in this case. Mobil, the ExxonMobil, right? Petroleum company, right? And then that's what the indenture is. Please read this because there's nothing you can't understand because there's nothing mathematical about this. It's just like legal part, right? And okay. Here's something. Although the bond indenture may mention something about the collateral, usually, think about it. Bonds are debentures. Bonds are debentures, right? That means what? Debentures are bonds are debentures. Debentures mean it's a debt not secured by any collateral, right? So think about it. When you get a loan, there is always some collateral, right? For example, you take out a mortgage loan. What's the collateral? The property that is being purchased with that loan, mortgage loan, that is collateral. It's automatically collateralized. It's already automatically set up as collateral. And what is if you take out a auto loan, car loan, right? Your car is already put up as collateral. If you default on payment, they will repossess the car because it's the collateral, right? Probably, and the bond is only, bond has no collateral, right? That's called debenture, right? So the bond is basically secured by nothing but the credit rating of that company, right? A student loan is a kind of debenture because when you get a student loan, there's no collateral. If you think about it, I mean, but it would fit the definition of debenture, right? But some bonds, think about it. If it is like triple B and above, at least like double B, there's no collateral. But if the rating goes down to like C, triple C and below, it might such a bond might require collateral, right? If you're nobody would want to buy like triple C or double C and below. Nobody would want to buy. Well, how can such a bond sell? First, there should be a promise of high return. We are very risky, but if we make it, I mean, if we make it, you're gonna get 15% coupon interest or 20% coupon interest, almost 30% coupon interest, 20, which would be almost, if you're getting 25 to 30%, that's like a stock during a good year, right? And a bond cannot promise guarantee on interest like that. Of course, stock cannot guarantee anything, right? That's the difference between the stock, the bond. But once a bond, says it pays 25% coupon, it's fixed and it should be guaranteed. But the rating is so low, it's triple C and below. How can they guarantee it? Well, the only way they can guarantee that is by putting up some collateral, right? So some bonds do have collateral. Why is it defaulting to this all the time? And then So for default risk, basically a bond that has very low credit rating, let's say, so triple C bond, and it's paying 25% coupon. I mean, not just coupon, overall, let's say overall yield is 25%. Yield to maturity is 25%. Then that 25, the difference between the 25% and the risk-free yield. And what gives you risk-free yield? Treasury, of course, Treasury. So the difference between the promised yield is 25% and the yield on Treasury, that difference is called default risk premium. Of course, what else can it be, right? That difference is the default risk premium. So investors will look at default risk premium. And so take a look at this. I mean, this tells a lot about, what EBIT, you all understand. EBIT is earnings before interest and taxes. So from EBIT, you pay out interest. What does this mean? EBIT interest coverage multiple. EBIT interest coverage multiple. So that's, coverage ratio, right? Interest coverage ratio. Another name for that is times interest earned ratio. Times interest earned ratio. Right? If it is times interest earned ratio, you might wonder, some people say this. If it is times interest earned ratio, then shouldn't it be called, TIE? Shouldn't that be TIE? Shouldn't the acronym be TIE, times interest? But no, yeah, some people use that, but I use this. So some students ask, isn't that XIE? No. What is this? What is this? Do you call this X? Times, right? A times B, right? That's why times. And this gives you the idea. I mean, when I was a first year graduate student, as an undergrad, I didn't do economics, I didn't do finance. I was a liberal arts, just naive liberal arts major. I didn't understand. It didn't make sense to me when I heard the financial news. And in the financial news, they say the bond market is up, interest rates are down. And then they say the bond market is down today, interest rates are up. I couldn't make sense of that. Why? Because to a naive liberal arts major, if interest rates are up, that sounds like a good economy. And because my deposit in the bank must be will be earning higher interest, so that must mean the economy is good. But if you study economics and finance, the price and there's an inverse relationship between the price and the interest rate, right? But to a naive liberal arts major, this was a mystery. Why is the bond market down? I mean, if interest rate is high, doesn't that mean the economy is? Well, actually, if the interest rate is high, that's not a good economy, right? That so times interest earned. You see why that is, like written like this, huh? And when I was a graduate student, my first master's degree was not in economics or my second master's degree is not in economics either, but it was in international studies, and I did some economics there, and only in my with my PhD I did economics. But as a first year graduate student, studying economics, times and some finance, times interest earned ratio didn't make any sense. Why times? What does it have to do with time? Then later, only when I in my later years, as I struggled with this, and then I realized that, oh, that this means, this times, this means times, right? Not, it doesn't mean time, chronological time. It means, multiple, right? And then, so this means, times interest rate, times interest earned. So what does that mean? How many times the interest has the company earned? In other words, how many times the interest payment is the company's EBIT? And look at AAA companies, median, that's middle value of AAA companies, 24%. I mean, 24 times, not 24%, 24 times. The company's earnings, AAA companies' earnings on average, the middle value, median, is 24 times the interest obligation. But look at triple C company. They are not even making, that means they are not even making earnings, EBIT, that is even 40% of their interest obligation, interest payment. Single B company, they only barely make 1.2 times their earnings are 1.2 times their interest obligation. So that means from this data, you can tell how likely they are to default. This one definitely will default. This one barely averts defaulting or avoids defaulting, right? And then look at, debt to equity ratio, debt leverage ratio, debt to total asset ratio, right? Total debt to total asset ratio. AAA companies have 12 times, the total assets is 12 times of their debt, total debt. I'm sorry. Total debt is only 12% of their total assets. Total debt is 12%. That means 87, almost 88% is equity, right? Almost 88% is equity. It should have that kind of leverage ratio to belong to AAA class. Actually, this is not the ideal or optimal debt ratio. Usually the optimal debt ratio is something like this. This is pushing it too hard, but this is something like optimal debt. It's 11:42. We are so let's take a 10-minute break. Let's take a 10-minute break. Okay, let's take a 10-minute break. So it's about time. So okay, let me. Where is it? All right, we're back. We're back. So, why is it defaulting to this slide? So we were talking about the what's the default risk premium, and what are the determinants or the factors of default risk premium, and how the the bond ratings, the, the factors, representative, level of the factors that determine the default risk. So as an example of, a default risk premium, here's the one illustration of this, and I would leave it to you to, watch the my illustration of this in the video, okay? Because we are kind of, behind. I gotta speed it up a little. This part, please watch the video, because I want to at least touch on the default credit default swap. So basically, this graph shows you the difference between the spread between corporate bond and 10-year treasury bond. Obviously, yield spread, represents the default risk premium between, the 10-year treasury and the 10-year corporate bond. And the bond that is represented here is the AAA and BBB and B, right? AAA bond is blue curve, and the orange curve is the BBB, and the I don't think this is red. What should I call it? Not purple, magenta, crimson, or magenta. Magenta would be a better description of this color, or the name of this color. So over, since 1997, the timeline runs from 97 through 2012. I believe, current edition has more. 10th edition has more. This is from the 9th edition. I mean, I used, this 10th edition must have more updated one. But this is almost like how many years? Like 14 year. Like over 14 year time horizon. So if it is zero, that means, this is basically the difference. In other words, default risk premium. Obviously, there will be no difference between 10-year treasury and 10-year treasury. So between 10-year treasury and 10-year treasury, because there's no difference, it would be this, x-axis, right? The difference should be zero. 10-year treasury, different, no difference. But 10-year treasury and AAA bond, the difference in the yield is, represented by this blue curve, blue line. And so this difference is the default risk premium, right? In 2029, and at the time, in 2029, there was some, scare about the recession, impending recession, especially towards the end, like around September. It was quite pronounced fear about recession. So the rate went up in general, the rate. So the the yield difference between the AAA and 10-year Treasury was almost like 2%, right? More than 2%, you know. And then the yield difference between the 10-year Treasury and BBB bond was almost like, you know, this would be what, like 5%, 6%. But then, you know, single B, look at the yield difference. This is crazy, you know, almost 20%, close to 20%, right? So default risk premium was that big. And single B bond is almost like stock. Its return on the single B bond, the return on the single B bond is almost like a stock, right? So like, and if the default risk premium, the yield difference, yield spread between the Treasury and single B bond was almost like 20%, that means, you know, risk 10-year Treasury return plus 20% would serve as like a rough reference to what is expected of a stock, right? And of course, you know, the higher the bond rating, you know, relatively, you know, less volatile. I mean, it's quite, you know, a steady range, right? Doesn't, you know, it fluctuates within just 2% range, right? So this brings us to default risk, a credit default swap. What's a credit default swap? This is actually the culprit of the financial crisis. This is the culprit of 2008 financial crisis. So credit default swap is like an insurance policy on the default risk of corporate bond. Okay, it's like insurance policy. Then who insures this? I mean, who is the insurer and who is the insuree? The insuree is, of course, the company that sold this bond, because the bonds will come to roost eventually, right? The bonds will come to roost. At maturity, the company will have to cough up. I mean, if the company, the face value, right? The company sold, you know, if the company sold $1 billion worth of bonds, that means what? They sold like, you know, 1 million bonds, right? Because the face value of the bond is 1,000, roughly about, they sold 1 million bonds, right? Of course, it could be more or it could be less, because the selling price you should know, the selling price would be different from the par value most of the times. Most of the times discount bond, or otherwise premium bonds, right? But, you know, roughly you can tell they sold about, you know, 1 million bonds, and then, you know, so $1 billion worth. And at maturity, 10 years later, 20 years later, or 30 years later, at maturity, whoever presents this bond, they would have to pay $1,000 per share per bond. So total will be, you know, $1 billion. But if they default, you know, obviously, you know, if they default, there will be a disaster, right? So So to guard against that potential default, they buy insurance policy, which is credit default swap. So obviously, this is the company that sold the issuer of the bond pays insurance premium, right? That insurance premium could be 1%, 2%, 3%, whatever percentage. But the higher the default risk, this premium will be also high. But this is what they used, back in 2000, early 2000s. This is what they used. Remember what caused the financial crisis? Because they cut up all these different mortgage-backed securities, right? What caused housing market crash and ensuing financial crisis was the collateralized debt instruments, CDIs, collateralized debt instruments, also called mortgage-backed securities. Where is it? CDIs, collateralized debt instruments. What does that mean? Now, it's going to take a lot of time to explain this, but there would be, back in like 2006, there were lots, between 2000 and 2006, there were lots of subprime mortgages. Subprime, and mortgages are backed by the collaterals, right? The properties that the loan was made for, right? And these, so if the bank made $1 million loan, right, to a prime borrower or subprime borrower, regardless, the bank will be lower. The bank's reserve will be lower by 1 million, right? The bank reserve will be lower by 1 million. But then, the banks wanted to, I mean, it should be natural. I mean, they should be lower. Their reserve must be lower by 1 million. But then they sold. They didn't want this. So in other words, so what they did was they sold mortgage-backed securities. Mortgage-backed securities. What does that mean? Since they have this loan backed up by more collateral, right? When they made a loan, $1 million loan, that loan is backed by this, secured by this collateral. So if the borrower defaults, then they can foreclose on the property and get their 1 million back. How? By selling back this property in the market. If they sell the property back, they can get $1 million back. So backed by this collateral, they sold bonds. They sold something like, not necessarily bonds, but like bond is a long term, even short term. They sold short-term securities, commercial paper. That's promissory notes. So they sell promissory notes for 1 year, or a bond for 10 years or 30 years. So then when they sell it, they get the 1 million back into their reserve, right? Back into their reserve. So then, if they maintain still, let's say their reserve was $10 million. Normally, when they make the loan, mortgage loan, then their reserve must go down to 9 million. But they wanted to avoid this, although after having made the loan, they still wanted to keep their reserve level to 10 million. So they sold, mortgage-backed securities of, 1 million. Then, their reserve is back to 10 million. Then they can make loans up to 10 million again, right? So this is called, mortgage-backed security, right? When they sell another, bond, the bank sells, promissory note or bond for up to 1 million, up to the amount of their collateralized loan, right? This won't be a problem as long as the borrower doesn't default. But this becomes a problem once the borrower defaults in massive quantity. Why? If only one borrower defaults, then it's only $1 million, and they can repossess the house and put it in the market and recover 1 million. So they will have 1 million, so they can have money to pay back their promissory note for 1 year. $1 million promissory note for 1 year. But if this default happens in massive quantity. So let's say all 10 houses, we assumed that the bank's reserve was 10 million, and they made 10 loans. They loaned out on all 10 million. And this is, then think about it. 10 million can be easily exhausted by 10 mortgage loans. 10 mortgage loans. If there are 10 mortgage loans, each loan 1 million, right? Right? 10 of these. If they have 10 of these, 10 mortgage loans, they're all, reserves are exhausted in the mortgage loan. But if they all default, think about it. They were all subprime borrowers. The mortgage, the borrowers, these mortgage loan borrowers were all subprime borrowers, and when interest rate went up, they all defaulted. And when they all default, then they foreclose on all 10 houses. All those 10 houses are in the market now. Can they sell? I mean, this happened not only with this bank, this happened with all the banks throughout the economy. So what happens? There are suddenly, and if each bank had 10 loans, 10 properties, and there are 10 banks who had all of these, borrowers defaulted, who have all these defaulted borrowers, then 10 banks have 10 repossessed 10 houses, right? Total will be 100 homes in the market. When there are suddenly 100 homes in the market, clearly you cannot get $1 million. You cannot get $1 million on each house, right? Does that make sense? Then let's say the house prices are all slashed by half, so you get only $500,000 on the house. Then what happens to their reserve? Their reserve goes down to 5 million, right? 5 million. This is a problem because based on the this 10 million and believing that they can recover this 10 million even if the borrowers default, and they sold $10 million worth of mortgage-backed securities. They sold $10 million worth of mortgage-backed securities, right? something like promissory note backed by mortgage-backed securities, or something like promissory note, which matures in 1 year, right? Promissory notes. So one year later, all these promissory notes come in due, and they have to pay out 10 million. But then they have only 5 million to meet this payment. And because of that, financial market crisis started because of this. But then the problem was what made this possible. Think about it. How can you make subprime, the mortgage-backed securities, the mortgage, the promissory notes that was backed by subprime mortgage, how can you make it sell? I mean, this shouldn't sell in the first place, but they sold. How? Because they sliced it up. These, mortgage-backed securities, think about it. These mortgages, some of them are prime, some of them are subprime. In other words, some of them are very high quality, some of them are very low quality. But what they did was they didn't sell it by like subprime. The promissory note, it's not like they are selling it by that particular case of mortgage, by particular case of mortgage. They were all, some were very high quality, some are very low quality, but they all sliced it up and fed it into a sausage making machine. Think about it. What goes into the sausage making machine is not the prime quality meat, but also goes the low grade meat, also goes, even, fat, also goes in there like intestines, whatever, the organs, hooves, nostrils, the snouts of the pig, the hooves of the pig, they all go in together. And out comes the machine, the sausage. So CDI, collateralized debt instrument, is basically like the sausage. So it's hard to grade this. There's no, in other words, there is even into this, all AAA is there. But even D is there. Everything is in there. And they sold this. Right? The banks sold this. To whom? Of course, to institutional investors. I mean, this was sold to like Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs made this, sold to other banks, hedge funds, and asset management firms. Goldman Sachs, culprit of not only Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, Merrill Lynch, they all did this. And they backed it up. They insured it. They insured it by, this is where it comes. They insured it by credit default risks, credit default swaps. In other words, they insured. Who insured it? Like, Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns, AIG, they insured it. The problem is, without knowing, I mean, it became very opaque. It became very opaque, right? You see, the credit level, credit rating of the CDIs became very translucent, not transparent, but opaque, right? Very cloudy. So they shouldn't have insured them. They shouldn't have insured CDIs, but they insured CDIs. And then when the financial market crisis broke out, I mean, the mortgage housing market blew up. Then, when housing market blew up, all these CDIs became bad, right? And then the companies like Lehman, AIG, Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns, they were, because they sold the CDIs, and they shouldn't have, because the credit rating is very dubious. They shouldn't have sold CDS, credit default swaps. But they didn't mind. I mean, because CDIs had very dubious credit rating, but the credit rating, think about it, the average would be, if you have AAA, or everything between AAA and D in that CDI, right? They thought the rating would be then averaged out. When the rating is averaged out, then it should be at least something close to triple B. So it would be okay. So we'll insure them. So they pay insurance, right? AIG sold insurance. Lehman Brothers sold insurance. CDS, right? Credit default. Bear Stearns did that. Not only U.S., but also Deutsche Bank. Some foreign banks also bought this. So that's why this was global. This became global thing. When the subprime borrowers started to default, then it became a housing market crisis, and housing market crisis then became all these financial crisis, because all these CDIs they defaulted, and when they default, insurance, the companies that insured must pay them, and the companies like AIG, Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, they couldn't. And then they must go bankrupt, but then the government bailed them out. They bailed out Bear Stearns and AIG, but they let Lehman Brothers sink. That's why so CDI was the culprit of collateralized debt instrument. The acronyms are very similar, collateralized debt instrument, but that's the culprit of the financial crisis. But CDS, credit default swap, this is the main reason why Lehman Brothers sank. Okay. I think we are out of time, so already, 7 minutes past. So that's it for today. Any questions so far? Any questions? Any questions? No? All right. So I think this wraps up.
I have a question.
Yeah. Cool. Go ahead.
For our test, do you give like a review or no? No. We don't have time for review. So basically, to review, you have the videos there. I post, the main lecture videos are already posted. Right.
Yeah,
I watched some of your videos on YouTube as well, but
yeah. So it's the past ones are on YouTube, and the current and active ones are still visible, and there are also recordings of the live sessions. So you need to review through them, right? We don't have time for a separate review. And also Anna was here, right? We have a supplemental instructor. So you can have review session with Anna, right?
Yeah.
All right. All right. And also please remember that the Connect, on Connect, there are chapter problems. So the chapter 10 problem, which is the bond, right? This chapter, it must be already active, right? So chapter problems, you need to do it on Connect, right? While it is still, you can do it late, but once it is late, then there will be like late penalty per, per day late, like 5% per day late or something like that.
Professor?
Okay. Yeah.
When is the test day again?
I haven't. No, it can't be preset, right? I can only have some rough estimate, but it cannot be pinpointed because it depends on where we are, right? How much. So, but roughly, the first test will be after we cover topic 2, the stock valuation. Okay. Damien, yeah. If so, basically the class is dismissed already. I mean, as of officially, it is technically it should be dismissed at 12:15. So if you have any, so I should say, the class, I'm saying, goodbye to basically whoever has to leave. You are excused if you have to leave, and if you have questions to ask, you may remain. But basically, have a great afternoon, everyone, and I will see you next Saturday. And if you still have a question, you can. Okay, have a great afternoon, Shabir. Damien, you have a question, right? You can remain.
Yeah, Professor.
Yeah, Damien, go ahead.
Real quick. So you're saying that the Connect is open already now? Now we can try to get on the
Connect. Yeah. It's active, open and active. You can just follow the instruction there, right? In the announcement. So it's open and active. Yeah. Any other questions?
I have a question. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
How much of our total grade is the Connect assignment?
How much percentage, right? How much percentage is of the grade is the Connect exercise? Is that your question, right?
Yes.
Actually, it carries no look. Connect exercises for your own good or for your own understanding for your but so it doesn't enter your semester grade. If you go to the syllabus, you will see your grade comes only from midterm 1, midterm 2, midterm 3, and final. Midterm 1 and midterm 1, I believe midterm 1 is 20%, midterm 3 is 20%, midterm 2 is 25, final 25, and the 10% is from attendance and participation. But as I said, participation can be 10 plus, right? If you earn more participation points, you get more. So it can be 10 plus point, more than 10%, right? It can be even 20%, 25%. But then how does the Connect exercises work? Look, if you do Connect chapter problems, you'll do better in the exams. You'll definitely do better in the exams. So it's already reward in itself, right? You get the reward. Also, by the end of the semester, if you are at risk of falling below B minus, I will use the average of all your Connect chapter problems to boost your lowest exam grade, right? If only you're at risk of falling below B minus. But by doing all of those chapter problems, you avert the probability, the possibility of falling below B minus. You would be so that's why I'm saying doing the chapter problems, that's the reward in itself. Okay. Any other questions?
Professor, I know, can you just give me, like, for example, for a test question, how would it be worded? Is it like just a sample?
Look, I can't,
I mean, I'm having a hard time grasping the material, so I'm just trying to figure out.
well, it cannot be verbally explained. I mean, it will take, probably 30 minutes to give you an example. So to see an example, actually go to the chapter problems, right? Go to the chapter problems in Connect, right?
Yeah.
Because the exams are also on Connect, right? So if you do the chapter problems, you will have, pretty good sense of, how the exam, actual exams are will be like. The wording, it's exactly the way it is worded in the chapter problems.
Okay, I'm gonna set my Connect up today.
Yeah. Okay. All righty.
All right. Thank you. You have a good day.
All righty. All right. You have a great day, and everyone have a great day. If if you're still there, I think the people that are still there are probably, just logged in. All right, then I will stop sharing, stop recording, and sign out.